The figures, as you say, are truly appalling, with 1 million people being infected every 3 days, 2,800 dying a day. And those, remember, are the official statistics, which almost certainly do not reflect the true reality. And one of the reasons why they don't reflect the true reality is that the Indian Health Service is so overstretched. It just is not able to cope with the situation in the country at the moment. This is a health service in a massive country of 1 billion people, which gets only 1% of GDP. If you're living in one of the crowded slums of India, or if you're living out in the countryside, you're not getting the sort of service that's going to protect you from coronavirus. Therein lies the central problem, I think. It's estimated that probably in the countryside, in the rural villages, most people who contract the disease are dying without seeing a doctor. These are figures which are not making it into the overall statistics. Which is why I say the overall figure is probably very much worse than we're being led to believe. Hygiene standards is another reason why things are so bad in India at the moment. Because if you're in the Indian middle class, not a problem. You are pretty much sticking to the same hygiene standards as anywhere else around the world. But amongst the poor, standards are very poor. The levels of public health education are very poor. And they're just not in a position to cope with a pandemic of this ferocity. And at the same time as that, messaging from the government has been pretty weak as well. When the government itself organises political rallies with up to 250,000 people are taking part, and there's no social distancing and no wearing masks, not many people are going to pay attention, particularly amongst the rural and urban poor. There I think lies the essential problem here. That plus complacency. There was a time back in September when it did seem like, after the first wave was over, that India might just be on top of it. Prime Minister Modi was saying that India had become the pharmacy of the world for vaccines. It's true that India was producing a lot of vaccines, but instead of that sort of complacent attitude, an opportunity was there to start producing more vaccines and prepare for the almost certain second wave that was coming. They didn't do that. Instead of building up oxygen stocks in preparation for a possible second wave, they didn't do it. And the result of that is what we have today, a country reeling from this appalling pandemic in India at the moment. A tsunami of cases, not just a second wave, and they're really struggling to cope.
And given what you've said there, Rob, do you think the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will pay a political price for what's happening now?
Well, almost anybody else in politics would certainly pay a political price. Whether or not Narendra Modi will or not is another matter. He has shown himself extraordinarily resilient to political misfortune of one kind or another. However, there is no doubt that the government is showing itself to be a little bit nervous at the moment. There's been a lot of criticism, particularly on Twitter, to the point where the Indian government has asked Twitter to stop tweets getting on criticising the government's handling of the coronavirus. But the Supreme Court has indicated its irritation and anger with the situation by saying it's time the government came up with a national plan. All these sort of things obviously do have an impact on people's perceptions. I think, the thing about Modi, though, is that he does appeal to some sort of Indian nationalism, which is on a wave at the moment. The fact, for instance, that he's allowing a Hindu temple to be built on the former premises of a Muslim mosque in the state of Uttar Pradesh goes down really well with his political base. The fact that he has removed special status for Jammu and Kashmir goes down really well with his political base, to the point where in January he had a 74% approval rating, despite the fact that the government was not performing well on the coronavirus. Well, there are results coming through on May the 2nd for elections in 5 Indian states. That should give an indication of whether or not the faltering performance of the government, and that's an understatement, on coronavirus, and its performance on the economy have been enough to start undermining Prime Minister Modi's support.
Okay, Robert Fernand, thanks very much indeed. Robert Parsons there, our International Affairs Editor.